Can you see the river twice? A relationship is said to begin when a person enters your life. But look at what's there before contact. An image. A girl with nice body, a muscular man, someone who gives you what you want, someone you can imagine being with. The image is assembled by past experiences. They condition what is wanted. It is not only the movement of the past, it is the seed of division. The image isn't just retrospective. It does not only activate when remembering something. It's the thing that splits reality into wanted and unwanted, beautiful and ugly, acceptable and not. Agree? If yes, do you see that agreement is cast against the background of disagreement? Perception is fit into an image already assembled. When there is a match, reaction follows. The image you have of each other creates desire. The desire is for the image you have of them. It's not for them. If my feelings for you change, it's because your actions no longer fit the image I hold of you. A reaction to your actions is triggered by the mind comparing that action to an ideal. Interaction with reality is absent. Not a metaphysical reality, but simple awareness of what is actually happening. It is like a reflection of a face in a lake. At the touch of a breeze, waves form and change how it looks. The breeze disturbs the reflection, the face shifts, and that shift is mistaken for the face changing. The original face, the actual person, was never in the lake. Attempts to imagine the real face are just other reflections in the lake. Desire runs underneath all of it, the way water runs under ice. Present everywhere, visible nowhere. Desire is the ground only within the world it generates. When it's whispered, "I like you," desire is pretending to be perception. In perception, "I like you" can still be whispered, but without confusing it for seeing the person. The question is that if awareness is influenced by desire, knowledge, and belief, can there be at the same time an awareness of the influence? Can awareness see its own distortion without a second, cleaner awareness positioned above it doing the seeing? If the answer is no, if seeing distortion requires an undistorted vantage, then clean perception is impossible. If the answer is yes, if the distortion seen is already undistortion, then seeing and ending are the same movement. Change happens not because something acted on perception, but because perception acted on the whole. If there is a realization that knowledge does influence its surrounding, and in fact everything influences everything, then thought might question whether its own movement is influenced as well. That question, genuinely asked rather than rhetorically posed, is already different from thought running unseen. The thought that raises a question about its own influence without seeking an answer is already outside the power of influence. The untainted perception is not a deeper ground of the same kind. It is not a floor at all. It is the seeing that desire's whole ground and not ground structure is desire's doing. It is also the end of desire pretending to be not desire. We think we are the owners of desire, but the assumption that one is in charge of desire is already the self placed at the center before anything happens. The whole construction holds together inside its own frame while the frame stays unexamined. The self appears to be the center, one who moves, and everything else is what gets moved. But the things that get moved are not separate from the mover. A struggle in a relationship is the same as an ideal struggling against other ideals. If something goes wrong, the mess is plain to see. The anxiety, the grief, the sense that something is off. What goes unlooked at is the part that calls itself coherent, the part that says, I must fix this. It is never questioned, because it wears the face of the cure. But it is made of the same disorder it means to fix. Consider thought and desire. Apparently two things. In truth, thought does not move through desire. Thought is desire. The wanting and the thinking are one movement, not two things meeting. The thought of someone is already the wanting of them. There is no neutral image that desire is later added to. Becoming the master of yourself is the central premise of modern life. Psychology, education, sports, democracy, all run on it. But consider the river. Can you master the second step? Can you step in and make it the same river? If you could, you would have become the master of yourself or even nature. The second step is always already conditioned, always the known river. Becoming your own master is the illusion the self is built on. Care, skill, patience, knowing when to let go. These were the face of wisdom, of someone becoming better at love. But at what, though? Better at directing? The self after becoming remains the self before becoming, only grown more skilled. Refinement regardless of how sophisticated it is, cannot reach what produces refinement. The good is refined, but the good is old, and the old will never become new. The continuation of my self depends on your staying. Think of a relationship. Love and tenderness are not strangers to the fear of breakup. When interest looks out through the eyes, it sees life support. But interest is already full. There is no room left in it for reality, for anyone. Interest is not love. Interest operates through emotions, and an emotion is still mine, still something the self has and protects. Love is the absence of self-preserving interest. In interest, you relate to what you want, not to the other person at all. The person moves like a river. The image stays still. People get together and break up without ever meeting each other. Not because there is anything wrong with them, but because their investments have dried up. When you notice it's not the person you are reacting to, but the image you hold of them, the image becomes like a well that no longer holds water. It has stopped being what it was. We cannot step into the same river twice. Everything is always moving, always changing, including us. Twice is where the assumption of sameness breaks. Twice is where the river stops being the river. Life is timeless and cannot be looked at through the lens of knowledge, which is the movement of time. The second step lands not in the river, but in the memory of it. The feel of it the first time, the knowing of how it was. You step into what you take to be the river, and you have developed not only knowledge of it, but attachment to it. What is returned to is not the river, but one's own accumulated contact with it. And this is called intimacy. Your muse, the thing you love, is just thought. Being absorbed in thought is not the same as love. When the fading of an attraction is seen as a person's departure, it becomes heart-wrenching. When it is seen for what it is, nothing wrenches. Some say, let it go. But the letting go does not escape pain. Letting go requires a belief to motivate it, which is part of the same movement that creates the pain. The letting go was meant to relieve. Experience is what thought makes of life. The processed, remembered residue. Reaching for experience to manage life is reaching for the old. Management produces refinement, not change. What is new is not another ideal. It is what unfolds in perception when the image is no longer taken for the person. Can you look at each other in a new way? Can you see her tomorrow as if for the first time? It is contact with what was never an image. The person as they are, moving, indifferent to the still picture made of them. There is no relationship without seeing the deception, not seeing past it, not correcting it, not trading the false image for a truer one, seeing it as deception, which is already its end. The heart-wrenching task of letting go is thought grieving its own creation. What was never the person cannot be lost as a person. The grief was for the investment, and the investment was never the other. It was the self in another form, sent outward, held at arm's length and called love. The river flows, the image does not.